let's go ahead and get things going. I think that this is a pretty interesting arc in Daredevil, so it should be pretty fun to talk about. Welcome to the stream, everyone. We're back again with another episode, Daredevil Season 2, episode, well, I was going to say episode 5 through 9. Pretty solid stuff. I'd say they're pretty good. In my opinion, I think that they could have, they kept a pretty sharp tone throughout most of the episodes, which is pretty nice. And I like that they kind of delve out some pretty solid like character arcs. Like they take plenty of time for each character, which is pretty nice. I feel like season 1 of Daredevil, there was a lot more kind of focus on the main, villain, and I don't think that's quite the point of this season. There's some different character arcs for the supporting characters and for a few other characters as well. Because you have Punisher, which we already went over the first season. I mean, the first couple episodes of the season. Punisher was kind of the main focus of that first portion. Because it's interesting how they kind of mirror the characters for Matt and for Daredevil in general. They kind of make it balanced because they give him these different characters to play off of. And they, use those characters to kind of decide Matt's moral compass, which is pretty interesting. I'm a fan without fear. Hey Steve, how's it going, man? Yeah, so I think that's kind of what they've been going for, which it worked pretty well the first season with Kingpin. They mirrored, Kingpin's journey through the underworld, and they added in the journey with Matt, and those two kind of clashed. But you saw the similarities there. He built up his empire and his persona, and Matt built up his own, way of fighting crime and, fighting for justice. And now we've got the Punisher with his own, realm of justice he's trying to put together now. And then you enter Elektra, who is just totally okay with killing people. She does not care. And as the actors, have said themselves, including the actress that plays Elektra, like the writers wanted to make her more of a sociopath, it seems. And less emotion and more just overall just less empathy for the people that she kills. But at the same time, the actress wanted to make sure they kept some of that balance in there for Elektra, that she wasn't just a killing machine, which I understand. But of course, you see someone like Elektra and you wonder, like what happened. Like how did someone like Elektra, who is like, dropping bodies left and right, how did someone like that end up going, how did someone like that end up with Matt? And how they end up having an interesting relationship where, they actually loved each other. It's an interesting dynamic for a show like this. Because we've seen, at this point in the story, we've seen Matt kind of going down the route of trying to make something happen with Karen. And as I said before in the last episode, you have Matt, this is a fantastic day. This is probably like, just a perfect day. You don't want to ruin it. And he's outside with Karen in the rain, and it's a really, really awesome moment in the show. But you always know with Daredevil that when he gets that kind of day, there's going to be just a shit ton of terrible days coming up after that. So he had that day, and then everything kind of fell apart. We had Elektra return. It's clearly a love interest for Matt, but something happened between them that made that love interest completely evaporate. And then you have Karen, who's still trying to save the Punisher. Frank Castle, we have him introduced now as a client for Buggy Murdoch. So Nelson and Murdoch. But there's definitely some dynamics there that we have to explore. I think that this is a pretty interesting part in the show, because you get a lot of these characters bouncing off each other in different ways, but you also get some introductions of characters and their backstory. With Matt, we get some more history of what happened before Elektra left, which is some pretty good flashbacks too. I really like the flashbacks in this episode. Pretty solid stuff, I gotta say. But yeah, I'm gonna break down a little bit of that too. I'm gonna try and go a little bit episode to episode, but I know some of it kind of blurs together because I've watched them a few times. But they, certain scenes, I can't necessarily remember every single episode they're in. But we're gonna go kind of episode to episode. The first episode, is of course the introduction to Elektra. I'm gonna like show a little video of some more information, just general overview of kind of like what her arc is and character is like in the show, in case you guys still haven't seen it. Then we go more into depth about the actual character and how she's used in these next couple episodes, because really it's a bit different for her than some of the other characters you see in the show, because she's seen both sides of Matt Murdock. She's seen, you know, this kind of balance between what he can do as a superhero and, you know, him as a person. And you notice that she's the only person who like really calls him Matthew, you know what I mean? Everyone else calls him Matt. But when it comes to Elektra, she calls him Matthew. And it's like there's a sweetness there. There's like a familiarity that you don't really get with the other characters. That you can see there's some history here beforehand. It's pretty cool. It's a Doomcast? What? Carolyn, hey, welcome to the stream. Yes, I'm podcasting, Carolyn. You know, I'm doing podcasting things now. I've been doing them during the day, but you know, some of you guys couldn't catch them because you didn't watch some of the other stuff, or you didn't want to get spoiled. We're talking about Daredevil today. We're talking about some of the episodes of Daredevil, episodes 5 through 9, which is basically the Daredevil and Elektra arc, with her introduction and a few other characters. But yeah, so basically, I'm gonna show a little video, kind of explaining Elektra's character in this show. She is considered a Greek character, but I feel like you can't really. She's kind of ambiguous, I want to say, in this show. I know some people complain about her accent. They said that she was trying to force the accent a little too much, and it came off more like British, but like bad British. I mean, like, I don't really catch those kind of things as much as some people do, so it didn't really bother me. She just felt kind of more ambiguous than anything to me at first, and then I know they did make some references to her as a you know, the Greek, you know, love interest that Matt had in college in the first season, but I didn't really put two and two together like that. Even though I know the history of Elektra, having like watching the show, you don't really get the kind of feeling, you know, watching it. It felt more like she was just world traveled. And you know, according to the show, she's like, you know, a debutante and everything else here. They didn't really go too heavy into the backstory as far as that goes at all. So I don't really know how much they're gonna really push that further on in the show. But you get this pretty much, you know, idea that Elektra she's mysterious. She has, you know, plenty of money. You know, there's a company she's pretty much in charge of as well. But she's out here running the streets, kicking ass. So there's definitely a danger there. I'm sure that Matt is intrigued by that danger. There's attractiveness between the two of them. You can feel it, the tension and the, you know, the seduction and all that kind of just builds up. It's a really good job by the actors. Really good stuff. So I'm gonna show a little bit of this video here. We'll put it on stream. Just introducing the character a little bit, and then we go into some more details about each episode of the show. Should be pretty hype. But thank you guys for hanging out. Do appreciate it. Let's get this going. Should be this one here. There we go. So I showed this little introduction. You guys can check it out.
What are you even talking about?
She's back in town.
Your ex-girlfriend?
Yes. She's different. She's dangerous.
This is insane. She's a diplomat's daughter, a debutante.
Not anymore. She's
pretty sultry.
Elektra.
Hello, Matthew. Elektra and Matt met when they were younger. They loved each other very much. When you graduate and we get married, this is how we live.
Cheers. They had that kind of love-hate relationship.
But then something happened in front of Matthew and he's horrified. And she disappeared from his life. You deserve better.
Something very terrible happened. That's very true.
Miss Nachios, good afternoon.
Let's all prepare to be dazzled, shall we? When she comes back, she's on a mission.
What you doing back here?
New York is ripe for the taking, and the Yakuza plan on getting to the top of the hill. They won't stop until they've infiltrated your whole city.
They have this history, so he's emotionally conflicted. I don't need a partner.
You want to fight me? Or you want to fight the guys who are tearing the city apart?
If we do this, nobody dies.
Let's say the action's always been intense.
Tell her to get
It's always
he
been a good
realizes
look.
she is an incredible asset to his fight.
The excitement comes back for him. Get me back. I win. She leads Matt Murdock to be naughty.
Matt has feelings, which are very quickly reawakened. Those feelings blur everything.
Matthew is always on the borderline, whereas Elektra, she's already on the other side. Once more. It's gonna break.
She validates the dark side.
There's always this glorious darkness inside you. That's why I loved you.
He's been teetering on the edge of those feelings, and she sets a fire under them. And you really
There's so much emotion in all the
cross
scenes.
the line.
It's awesome. Guys, like, even just watching, like, the, like, flashbacks, like, there's just so much. It's just a really good job. The emotion, like, you always have this feeling like, you know, Matt is always kind of on the edge. He's really close to breaking that seal. Or, like, he might just cross that line, but he always pulls it back. And I feel like with Elektra, you know, in the mix, she leans him more towards going over that edge. And so it's a nice dynamic to have them play with. I think that one of the things I like about the two characters is that the backstory makes it pretty interesting of why she left, but also kind of why even now, as we go through the next couple episodes, Matt is still drawn to her, you know, in different ways, because she knows him to a certain extent. She knows kind of how Matt works, and she knows he won't cross that line, but at the same time, she keeps pushing him to, because then it makes her feel more like he's like her, and they're both, you know, different characters, but they're tied to each other. You know, it's kind of hard to miss. So we start off with the first episode. As you saw there, you know, they mentioned how there was something that happened in the past that pretty much kept them from going any further there. As you can see, they kind of met, and you see like it's a breeding, you know, romance. It's just you know, flourishing there, and then suddenly it just stops. It comes to a halt. Well, as we are, you know, if you guys have watched the episode, it's episode 5. As we go through the episode, you know, basically Elektra wants to bring Matt in to kind of help her take out some Yakuza. We found out there's a little bit of a deeper story there involving the Hand, which is kind of the big bad this season. With the Hand, which are the ninjas who are, you know, coming out there to take over and find this artifact or, you know, weapon. So it should be pretty interesting. Thank you for the host, man. How's it going? So, welcome, guys. Oh, okay, Siren. No, well, thank you. Let me show you guys some love. But thank you for the host, Tech. How's it going, man? So we just started talking about episode 5 of Daredevil, which is kind of like leaning into the Elektra arc. I think it's a pretty sharp moment. Just showing a little bit of how Matt was kind of finding himself after, you know, losing his dad and growing up, you know, under Stick, and kind of just being a college, you know, guy, a sharp college guy. And there's some pretty good scenes there with Matt, you know, flirting with Elektra, and they end up taking off, you know. But yeah, so basically, I think that there's definitely some pretty cool moments in both that you guys might really enjoy. So basically, when it comes to Elektra's arc, he basically wanted Matt. She tried to push Matt into taking out the person who killed his father. So she figured that, you know, they broke into this guy's house, and, you know, it seemed like they've been living dangerously for a while now, stealing cars, you know, living with no care in the world. You know, Matt was kind of just living, and he was happy because he was with her. And so they break into the home of this guy, and of course, it was all a scheme by Elektra, and she ends up, you know, telling Matt that this was the guy who, you know, got your dad killed, and you should just go ahead and take him out. Just go ahead and kill him. And Matt's like, whoa, okay, I thought we were going to just beat him up a little bit because I'm pissed off, but I don't want to kill anyone. Of course, Elektra's like, whatever, I'm going to kill him for you then. Matt could not handle that. You know, he still has the good old Catholic guilt. He's like, I can't sit here and you're just going to kill someone. Regardless of what they do, I'm not an executioner, you know, I can't judge people or, you know, or death like that. So he was not happy with what happened there. And that's where, you know, things break apart. But we did see some interesting scenes with Elektra and with Daredevil. Well, Matt, you know, basically knowing each other. They could fight each other. She was highly trained. There were some pretty cool moments. But yeah. Uptime. I've only been up for like about 20 minutes. Tech. We're still pretty early on in the show. So yeah, basically that's episode 5. We started off with 5, and then we have 5 through 9. So basically, the main arc in 5, which is kind of introducing you more to Elektra's character. She's pretty on the edge as well. I would say, like, she definitely still has feelings for Matt, it seems, but you can't really tell if she's really for you. You know, like, you can't really tell if she's really for Matt or not yet at this point. She wants his help to kind of get get some things taken care of for her company, but you can tell that she kind of has some ulterior motives. I think Matt can tell that too. But unlike some other characters, I feel like I believe that Matt can't actually read her heartbeat like the other ones. So, which is something that comes into play later on in the show with the ninjas, and Matt not being able to read their heartbeats, so he can't tell where they are. So that's some pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, that was episode 5. I'd say that if you're interested in the characters, it was a pretty crucial episode as far as Matt's character and Elektra's goes, because it pretty much builds on their kind of relationship in one episode. Like, you get to see the past, and you see how Matt handled that, and you get to see the future and why he's so pissed off at her for leaving. Because after this happens, after that scene with the his dad's killer, basically, she disappears. Like, she never comes back. And Matt's like, even despite what happened there, he wasn't quite, done with her, but she was gone. So she just left out of his life and never came back after they had this crazy relationship, so much passion there and everything else, and she's gone. She disappears. So imagine her coming back, out of the blue, and now Matt is Daredevil. He's kicking ass in the streets every night, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing here?" It's a pretty rude awakening, but also pretty interesting too. So yeah, that's episode 5. Let me take a look at episode 6 real quick here, so I can remember which ones, where things start and where things begin with the next one. But I think that there's some pretty interesting stuff. Some of the stuff will probably blend in as far as episodes go, but I'm gonna try and keep it somewhat separate, so you guys have at least an idea of where the story's going. But yeah, definitely some pretty solid stuff. As far as the next episode goes, let me try and find that one. Jay the Game, what's up, man? We're talking about Daredevil. I might show a little bit of the fight scene, from the hallway fight scene, as well from the last couple episodes, but we'll see. So we start getting into some more of the Elektra arc stuff, but there's a couple things that I feel like you kind of have to know from the other episodes too. So when it comes to episode 6, we start getting more into some more of the Punisher stuff, but also you kind of see Matt bouncing back and forth between helping Elektra and trying to do his job with Nelson and Murdoch, which is kind of rough. It's kind of hard for him to do right now. He's playing both sides. He's being Daredevil. He's running the streets with Elektra at night, and he's also trying to put together case stuff for Nelson and Murdoch, but they take on a pretty huge client, one that people are not really happy with right now, and that's Frank Castle. This vigilante has been going around killing criminals. So the firm decides that they want to take on Frank's case because the district attorney is trying to pretty much make him a easy kill. Like, they want to give Frank the death penalty. And even though Matt and Foggy disagree a bit about how this should be handled, they both agree that he deserves a trial instead of just getting put to death. And it feels like a cover-up, which is, interests Reyes. Reyes is kind of like the big bad early part of the season, I guess you could say, because she's hiding secrets. You can tell that there's some things she's not telling everyone else about when it comes to Frank Castle, and she's been hiding some things for a while now. And so, of course, Matt, being intrigued, he wants to know what's going on. He wants to know exactly why some things aren't adding up. And, of course, Karen, who's, I feel like Karen is kind of like a lot of people don't like Karen for some reason, but I think that she really holds the show together in certain ways, because she kind of keeps the focus of the non-Daredevil stuff on the main plot. So, like, when you look at the actual arcs there of Karen, her character, she funnels things in for, like, the Punisher and Frank Castle's character. She keeps things kind of reined in with that. You know, like Frank, he kind of takes a liking to her and he starts talking to her, and you get more story development, but she also investigates the other side of things, trying to make sure everything else is, pretty solid. I don't watch the show. Maybe I should. Then he got me intrigued. You haven't seen Daredevil? Tech, man, you're slacking, man. Daredevil is a really sharp show. I'd say that if you're into like just some slight crime drama, if you like superhero, shows or movies, even a little bit, you like realism to a certain extent, good action. There's some solid stuff. I gotta say that, like, especially if you're into moral conflicts. Like, the thing about Daredevil, one of the main things about Daredevil is that he has so many hard decisions. He always puts himself in these situations where there's more than one man should be able to handle, and he could take the easy way out. Where he could kill people. All right, given his abilities, his moveset, he could kill people and probably get away with it. But he doesn't do that because he has a moral conflict where he's like, I can't do that. I'm not God. I can't just kill folks. So he puts himself in situations where he's gonna almost always, almost die to save the day. So he's like the man without fear. He goes in head first. And the thing about the show is that can get some of his other friends in trouble. Which is why I like the show the way it is because even though Matt has this ridiculous willpower and he's willing to, put it all on the line for himself as a sacrificial lamb at times, it's hard to keep his friends out of the crossfire, you know what I mean? Which you can see later on in the season. But, he may be able to make that decision to save him, to save his soul. But when it comes to his friends, sometimes characters can get hurt. Yeah, it's definitely a good show, and it's already on season 2. We're in season 2 talking about it right now, so you got a whole season to catch up. Season 1's on there, and it's a Netflix show, so you can watch the first season and catch the second season after that. Have you read any Daredevil comics? Yeah, I read most of the Frank Miller run. I really loved Mark Waid's run. I'm willing to do that now. The first one, where it's kind of more of a happier Daredevil. It's some interesting stories, interesting characters. You had Spider-Man show up, a few other ones, Captain America. So there's definitely some. Daredevil's one of my favorite characters because he's got he's still somewhat street level to a certain extent, but he always has these pretty cool powers to me. And it's interesting to see kind of how they use those for him and against him because, like, for example, there was like an issue of the Mark Waid run of Daredevil where he was taking some kids as Matt Murdock. He was taking some kids to like a Christmas event in a lodge. And the bus rolled over and crashed in the middle of a snowstorm. The bus driver died, and so Matt Murdock had to lead these kids, through a snowstorm. But he's blind, and he uses his hearing and his, echolocation, his abilities, his radar sense to see things. But how can you see things in a snowstorm? Like, there's so much noise. So Matt's like, okay, how do I get through this? The kids are gonna freeze to death. I can't see. See, they give a character like that interesting, conflicts besides just villains even. And so at the end of the day, Matt, he ends up leading the kids through the snow and everything else there, and he almost freezes to death. But then the kids come together and they band together and they tie some ropes around Matt and they drag him to the cabin before he freezes to death because he was helping out the other kids. He gave all the kids his clothes so they could stay warm. He wanted to make sure they stayed okay while rest of them fell out. So that kind of stuff is what makes Daredevil kind of an interesting character because he was willing to die in the snow there to save those kids and almost froze to death. He gave them all his clothes basically to keep them from freezing, and they dragged him. Keep in mind that these kids were these were all kids from the blind orphanage that he went to. So they were blind and hard of hearing, all these children. And they showed their inner willpower and heroism by saving him. So some pretty cool stuff. But yeah, so I'd say that as far as the show goes, this is a pretty interesting episode because episode 6, we get Matt, Elektra. They're both kind of playing off each other a little bit more here. But then you also have some conflicts here. We have Karen, who of course has been dating Matt. And we have her taking on the case with Punisher and Frank Castle. For you guys that don't know, basically, at this point in the story, Punisher is kind of he's given himself in to a certain extent. Matt took him down, but he's been going on. He was on a huge tear, just basically killing the hell out of criminals for a while now. And they're basically trying to sweep it under the rug and pretty much get him the death penalty as quickly as possible. So, of course, Matt and Foggy and else there and Karen, they were like, no, we can't let that happen. So they take on a huge task of making a mass murderer / vigilante their number one client, which can be huge for Nelson and Murdoch. It could be a huge move as a law firm to take on a huge profile case like this, but also they're going up against the DA, which is the district attorney, who wants this to go away. You can tell throughout the show, like, the district attorney is like, nope, I want the whole thing to go away. Just kill off Frank, get him out of here. So you can understand as a small law firm why you would not want to go up against the district attorney, especially in the case where she's focused on and she's running against you. So that's a major conflict. You got to have all your focus on this conflict, except that Matt doesn't have his focus on that conflict. Where does Matt have his focus on? Elektra. So that's where the conflict comes into play. But yeah, it's a little bit interesting just to see kind of how they balance it out. You have, Matt playing with Elektra, basically in this idea of this, the Hand and the Yakuza, because after Kingpin left, after Kingpin got put away, there was a huge flux, in the criminal underworld. Everyone fighting for, New York City, and so the Yakuza rise up, and they are supposedly taking over. So, of course, the idea of taking out the Yakuza, helping Elektra, save her company, I guess Matt doesn't really care about. And also, just the idea of having someone else who understands him, he can run around with. Because if you think about it, at this point in the story, there's not really anyone else keeping up with Daredevil. The Punisher, yeah, he's a guy, a man who's kicking ass, but he's also in jail right now, and he's also considered a murderer. So at this point in time, Elektra, an idea of them being together again, I'm sure it excites Matt to a certain extent because he's like, it's back to old times, but people can say a lot of things like, yes, you can hate your ex, your ex-girlfriend or ex-boyfriend, but to be honest, if he still had feelings for her, which I'm assuming he does because she was the one who left. It's not like Matt necessarily just left out. She left him out after the situation that happened earlier. So, I'm sure there's something there. But keep in mind that he's talking to Karen at the same time, which is kind of bad. He's talking to Karen Page, and they have a little office romance thing going on. So, lots of conflict there, lots of good drama, and overall, it's interesting to just watch him kind of try and play both sides. And of course, you get Foggy, who's kind of like straight and narrow. I mean, if you say about it, like Foggy's character, he's pretty much the reason for most of the time. He talks. It keeps the show balanced and it keeps it grounded because Foggy. A lot of people hate on Foggy, whatever. Like, oh, he's annoying, blah blah blah. Like Foggy speaks the truth. Like he gives people at least he's straight and narrow. Like he keeps it grounded. He says like, look, Matt Murdock, where are you? We have this huge case, that's pretty much gonna make or break our career. If we get stumped here by the district attorney, she'll put our name on every fucking banner and make sure we never get a job again. And Matt's out here running around as Daredevil. He's not focused on the case. He's coming back beat up and half dead. And Foggy's like, look, I'm getting fed up with this. What's going on here? We need to focus on this case right here. You got this, champion this guy. He wasn't sold on Frank Castle or even taking the case. And so Matt suggested it, and now there's time for that to happen. Where is Matt Murdock? So there's definitely some conflict. You have Elektra coming back into his life again. You got Foggy, who's kind of falling out of friendship right now. He's just really kind of upset because they're not really focused on the case. And then you got Karen Page, who's kind of falling for Matt, but at the same time they have a huge conflict here. I think either this episode or next episode where they talk about the whether what things are going on with the show. It's a lot of good stuff. Gosh, I still need to see the first season of the show. Carolyn, get your life together, please. Okay, Carolyn, you've been slacking off. The show is really good, and it's all on Netflix. You can marathon the show in a weekend. This is season 2. Season 1 in season 2 are pretty separate, but there's some overlying themes between the two. But when it comes to this season, it's definitely focused more on the characters overall, like branched out for each character. Whereas season 1 was more focused on Wilson Fisk, Matt Murdock, the two of them flashing and kind of building up their characters over time. You have Rosario Dawson's character. It's really good. I need to get my shit together. Yes, you do, Carolyn. Get your shit together, please. It's a good show. Some great scenes, some great action scenes too, both in these episodes and in the season 1. So yeah, basically we get through some pretty cool moments there with Elektra and Matt, where they're at an actual a major gala, a major event, and they sneak into a this party at a major fundraiser event to try and get this ledger or some secret notes from the Yakuza in it. So they pull off this undercover pretty much heist, without their costumes on, and it's a pretty cool moment. It's just kind of smooth to watch them kind of play off each other. You got Matt and you got Elektra. They're kind of like, she's clearly just breathing, just oozing out fucking sexuality. She looks amazing, in the red dress, and just she's a really pretty actress, and she's really good at just playing this double-edged sword. Kind of just like leading Matt towards this danger, and also not quite telling him what she really wants. It's pretty good. Be a viewer without fear. Yes, Steve. So yeah, that's just a couple things about that episode. I think that it's definitely getting pretty crazy. Also, a major conflict here. Almost forgot about this episode. We get everything together. We get things are starting to go in their direction for the trial with Matt and Frank Castle. The Punisher. And it looks like they might have a chance to actually win this case. They put together a nice testimony and everything else there. And then out of the blue, things start to change. Things start to change here, and you're like, what the hell happened? Well, we have some moments here, guys. All right, because it's kind of interesting just to think about Karen's relationship with Frank Castle at this point. Frank isn't talking to anyone, for the most part. He's just kind of there. But then once they started to make him believe that he has a chance of telling the truth, of explaining his situation, what happened that day, because at this point in time, Punisher, we know that his family was killed. We know that he says that there was pretty much they were just destroyed. Like, it wasn't even close to being. There was a shootout. Everyone got wiped out. His family was completely wiped out. But Reyes is saying that was a completely different thing, a completely different story. That they died in some kind of tragic accident. It's clearly some kind of cover-up happening here. But Frank Castle, he starts tipping the Kool-Aid. Karen gets him to talk a little bit more about his situation. She goes and visits Frank's house. She sees his family pictures. Everything else there has not been touched since he left. And they have a nice bonding moment there. And so you think that things might go okay. You're like, okay, maybe they have a chance of actually winning this case, despite how crazy it is. The police are calling him the Punisher now. It's not even Frank Castle. This former army vet, and now he's being villainized by the media, etc. But then the case comes down, and of course, instead of pleading guilty and then going for the moments where him pleading insanity or PTSD or any of the kind of stuff, instead you get Frank just basically saying, "I'm not guilty." He destroys the entire plea agreement that they were trying to work on. Frank is like, "Fuck that, not guilty," blah blah blah. Also, there's some interesting moments where it seems like some of the witnesses in the trial were being threatened, which we assume was by Elektra because she has the money and the clout for it. And so that pretty much destroys the case because they can't tell who was tampering with what. So of course Matt gets pissed off. He's like, "What the hell's going on here? Did you tamper with my witnesses or my case to try and get this over faster?" And she's like, "Oh, well, I mean, I figured that if you kept complaining about this case, this major case you had every day, I'm Elektra. What do? I threaten people. I'll just go ahead and threaten the witnesses real quick and make this shit go a little bit faster so we can get back to the business here. And Matt does not like that, obviously. He does not like cutting corners, and he doesn't like when people try and take the law into their own hands. And Elektra is like, hey, well, I get a little bit more Daredevil time if you just end this case, the stupid case you're on. Let me just go in here and just threaten some folks real quick. So some pretty cool moments just to see the two of them play off each other. But I think you guys will really like the relationship. If you guys haven't seen the show yet, I think you'll be interested just to see kind of how the two of them balance off each other. With Elektra and Matt, I think it's kind of like a cool dynamic. And also you get to kind of see like the story and the progression of those two characters, but also kind of how these characters were just so close to each other in season 1, kind of starting to fall apart. They're coming to ends right now. Like Foggy is not happy because Matt is so focused on something else, and of course Matt is lying to Foggy as well, his best friend, about Elektra. He has not told him about what's going on between the two of them. And then you've got Karen, who's out. She's completely out of like the clue right now about everything. She doesn't know about Matt being Elektra. She doesn't know about Matt being Elektra. She doesn't know about Matt being Daredevil. She doesn't know about the fact that Foggy knows. She doesn't know about Elektra. She's out of the loop on a lot of things right now, and she can feel it because she has a pretty inquisitive mind. And they give Karen's character respect in the show for she's a smart cookie. Sure, she finds on. I think she likes some things a little bit quicker than I think sometimes is possible, but she's not stupid. So like she started to see things like, you guys are hiding things from me. So there's a lot of distrust there right now between the characters who were just so tight knit and focused on taking out Fisk in the first season, and just like they grew together. And keep in mind, like Karen's got her own secrets too, and considering that she's all about. She actually considers, what Punisher is doing maybe just, okay. Which is why the relationship between her and Matt kind of starts to fall apart. Because they have this conversation, and she's like, well, what if what the Punisher is doing isn't so bad? I mean, he's taking all these criminals off the street. They're getting wiped out, but, we keep putting them in prison, and they keep getting out again and doing terrible things. What if what Punisher is doing isn't so bad? And Matt's like, what? Like, Matt being a lawyer and just being Daredevil, he's like, I can't agree with that. And so that it's interesting to see that that's the reason why they start to fall apart. Not because another woman comes into his life, even though we do get to see with Elektra later on, of course, and some things happen. But I feel like Karen and the thing with Matt, like, it was interesting to see that that's what kind of breaks them apart right now. Is that decision, or at least that mentality. Even just Karen, considering the fact that what Punisher does might be okay, is too much for Matt to handle right now. He's like, I can't take that. I just spent the last 4 episodes putting this guy in prison, and now you're saying it's okay? I don't think that's cool. So, pretty cool episode there as well. So that one was Regrets Only. That's episode 6. And a little bit of episode 7. I want to say that, you guys will find episode 7 and 8 pretty interesting. Just because I think that I kind of want to save episode 9 for like the next episode, because I can't really show it on stream, at least as far as the fight scenes go. But it's a pretty epic fight scenes, episode 9. You guys might remember if you've seen the show already, but it's extremely violent, so I consider that on Twitch. But there's some pretty cool stuff. Carolyn, thanks for the host. I'm gonna take a little sip of water here. I've been talking pretty fast, I feel like. Alright. Carolyn Cat Eyes, thank you so much for that host. Yeah, so I think that the characters do a really good job at balancing each other out. Better late than never. Well, I appreciate it, Carolyn. So, like, just so you guys know, there's going to be some pretty cool podcast stuff coming up the next few weeks. I'll be doing a review with my friend Daniel, hopefully. We'll be doing a review of Game of Thrones. I wouldn't mind, Kellen, if you want to do an episode with me, you can. Some Game of Thrones hype, or something like that. I'll be watching the show, of course, on Sunday. We're going to probably do a review the week after that. So, if you guys are down, you can let me know. Also, of course, Civil War is coming pretty soon, in case you guys forgot. Civil War, Captain America is going to be out in about 2 weeks from now, so I'll be doing a review of that the week after as well. Maybe you guys a full week. You guys know how it is. Give you a full week to go catch Captain America Civil War, and then after that, I'll do a nice little review, spoiler free for the first like 20 minutes, and I'll do like the rest of it just all out spoilers when we won't go on ham. It'd be pretty hype. OMG, yes, that's right, Carolyn. That's the spirit. All right, so you guys already know. So where I left off, we're on episode 7 now, which is Guilty as Sin. This is a pretty important episode here. A pretty important episode because we understand a little bit crazy, and so the whole entire case goes to shit, and Frank Castle goes to jail. And the audience is like, what just happened here? We were just winning the case, and then suddenly Frank Castle just completely loses his shit. Well, there was a reason behind that, of course. It's the reason behind it, the pretty big fucking reason behind why that happens. And you know what that reason is, guys? Well, that episode, I'm the Punisher. I'm the Punisher. I'm guilty. Guilty as hell, and I don't forget. Just going crazy. And so the whole entire case goes to shit, and Frank Castle goes to jail. And the audience is like, what just happened here? We were just winning the case, and then suddenly Frank Castle just completely loses his shit. Well, there was a reason behind that, of course. It's the reason behind it, the pretty big fucking reason behind why that happens. And you know what that reason is, guys? Well, that reason is explained in episode 7, which is a pretty good episode. We find out a little bit more about what's been going on. We also see a little bit of the of Stick. Stick returns as well in this episode, being a pain in the ass to Matt as usual. We have Elektra, who also got pretty fucked up. But some pretty good stuff, guys. Some pretty good stuff in here. Let's see here. Now, basically, we have a couple of great moments here. It's just a really, really meaty episode to explain. So we're gonna just dive into it while we can here. Basically, when it comes to the characters, we have a return of a major character from season 1 in this episode, and we find out a little bit more about what the hell's going on. So of course, Wilson Fisk, who's been hanging out in prison, he decides to get involved here a little bit in the Frank Castle case, because he has a need for someone like Frank Castle, as we find out in this episode and in general. He's probably getting in there a little bit, huh? So yeah, we have a couple cool moments in there, but it's interesting, because Matt can kind of feel what's happening too. He's like, okay, you're being either blackmailed or something's not right here. But of course, that shit goes to hell. Frank is completely out of it. Matt is gone. Foggy and Karen are pissed off. They don't want to have anything to do with Matt right now. So at this point in time, the team, the Scooby team, is kind of broken up. You got Elektra and the Yakuza and everything else going on there, and then we find out that the Hand is involved. You guys don't know who the Hand are. The Hand are the crazy ninjas that are attacking our lovely heroes. So yeah, we'll go with you a little bit more about this episode. So a couple things that are pretty major here. We find out that there's something going on where the Hand, who are they're pretty badass, to say the least. They're pretty much wandering, keeping an eye on some kind of large gaping hole in the middle of New York City. And Matt's intrigued. He's like, what is this going on here? What the hell is this? So like, Elektra, Matt, they find the ledger they track down from the shindig they went to when they managed to steal from that supposed head of the Yakuza, and they use it to track down this giant gaping hole. I mean, they're not quite sure what the hell it's for. This giant mysterious pit, but they know that something else is involved. So of course, the Hand show up, these ninjas, and they are not fucking around. Matt finds that out the hard way because he can't read their heartbeat. So this is kind of a different fight for him than before, because Matt can always tell how many people in the room. He can pretty much focus on their heartbeat. He can tell where they are. can focus on their weapons or like their movements. But these are trained ninjas, so they can fucking hide their heartbeat and their movements. So what does Matt do? He focuses on the sound of their swords, and the sound of their swords hitting the wind. It's like swing, swing. He focuses on that sound, and so that he can fight them. But of course, Elektra wants to kill. She's like, she wants to kill fuck out these ninjas. Daredevil, on the other hand, is like, no, we can't kill them, just incapacitate them. And of course, like I was saying earlier, Daredevil's way of doing things is great for him, but it can lead to some trouble for his friends. In which case, like Elektra, who was ready to kill someone and Daredevil stopped her, she ends up getting caught slipping. She ends up getting cut by a poison blade by one of the ninjas. It's a bit rough, but it also leads to some pretty touching moments between her and Matt when she's almost dying. And of course, you see Matt's feelings kind of like show here after being a little bit more of a hard ass. The idea of her like dying is like what kind of brings them together again in this episode. You also have Stick return, who's pretty much being Stick at this point. He's kind of just, okay, whatever, you want to save her or not. So Stick comes in, he manages to put together some magic spell and stuff like that, some crazy shit. He managed to seal that poison out and save her life. But you have this moment here. It's a pretty touching moment. I wish I could show it on stream for you guys. But just if Elektra down and out and feeling like she's pretty much gonna die, she starts to tell Matt a bit more about what's going on between her and Stick and just in general, and she explains a bit more about how she feels. And it was kind of touching. Did you see like a character like Elektra who's kind of like, she feels like she doesn't have anyone. No one else understands her. She feels like Matt's the closest kind of understanding, how she is, but she feels like she can't change. She's like, you know what, you deserve better than me, and I'm sorry for what I did. I left you alone all this time, but I felt like no one could understand how I am. And it felt like she kind of had this kind of guilt there, and that's kind of what ties her and Matt together. They have this guilt they can't seem to get rid of. Like Matt feels like he's guilty. He can't save everyone all the time. He can't save people. He feels like he has this kind of guilt. Like, I have to keep these people on the street. I can't let them die. I can't kill them. But like, I don't want them to do evil either. So the best thing to do is to let the law handle it. But the law keeps letting these people get out every 2 weeks. So what can you do? A gaping hole in the hand show up? Steve, really? Okay. But yeah, so like one of the interesting dynamics I almost forgot about throughout this this whole arc was that Matt did make Elektra agree that if they were to work together in these episodes, then Elektra would have to adopt a no kill rule basically while she's with him. That means no killing, only knocking people out, and so that's kind of what gets her in trouble because they're going against these ninjas who are not fucking around. Which is why I'm saying that the escalation there for Daredevil, he's willing to play that fight where he's like, okay, you guys want to kill me, but I can't kill them. But Elektra is not used to holding back. She's not used to being able to hold back and not kill, so it ends up getting her in trouble. But I mean, that's kind of the nature of the game. So so far the not kill rule has kind of been working out for him. When we get to this point in the story, it ends up backfiring a little bit, at least when it comes to that particular fight scene, and then ninjas get her. And so she's dying from the poison. She tells Matt a little bit more about how he, changed her life and made her, realize someone might actually care about her. And then we get some crucial moments there with Stick as well, where Stick explains a little bit more about the chaste, and the hand. Basically these two warring nations. The Hand are, they're considered, some of the leaders are considered immortal. They've been around since the beginning of time, almost, it seems, a very long time. They have some kind of crazy abilities. And the Chase have been around for a long time as well. These two warring factions, this mystical battle between the two. You start seeing, leaning more towards like Iron Fist and Doctor Strange, these kind of characters. It's kind of interesting to see Daredevil play at that kind of world, because we've been doing mostly just New York City problems, the mob, Wilson Fisk, even the Punisher to a certain extent. You know, the ninjas and that kind of stuff starts bringing it to a whole other level, and then we get into some of the mystical stuff now, and it's definitely growing in scale compared to when we started out. So you know, we got the Hand, we got the Chased. Basically, these two warring nations or factions who have been fighting behind the scenes for a long time now. And of course, Stick is kind of like one of the, I guess you could say, the leaders of the Chased, or at least one of the main generals of the Chased, leading this kind of like war or battle against the Hand, who seem to be all about bringing some kind of weapon they call the Black Sky into fruition. So we got some pretty cool dynamics between the two sides. You have Stick, who's been fighting this war for ages now, and he's been trying to train people as human weapons. Matt, of course, being one of those weapons, he wants to kind of make into something they can use for this fight against the Hand and the ninjas. But of course, Matt doesn't want to be seen as a weapon or as anything that involves being a killing machine. And we find out a little bit more about just what's been really going on with Elektra and how everything was kind of staged. So some major plot moments here. So you guys are still, okay, and I know you guys have probably watched the season, you haven't watched it yet, but it's a pretty major moment in the season so far. We found some more information about the nature of Elektra, and we found a little bit more backstory on her as well. So Stick explains that Elektra has actually been working for her over these past few years since she left Matt. So that's one of the reasons why she disappeared. Also, the initial reason why she showed up in the first place was because of Stick. He made her like pretty much. He was just pretty much following an assignment for Matt originally. Stick was involved in that whole initial meet, and so it comes off really upsetting and tragic, I guess, for Matt at first. He's like, I don't understand. We had this huge relationship here, and there was love there, and I find out that Stick was behind it all. Of course, Elektra, or while she's almost dying, she's thinking, oh, Matt, I honestly did love you. So what started off as kind of an assignment by Stick to kind of to push Matt over the edge so that he could become that human weapon or killing machine that Stick wanted him to be, ended up turning into an actual romance. And so Elektra feels like she betrayed him to a certain extent, and she's guilty about it. And so it's a pretty strong episode, just because there's so much going on. There's so much. The reveals are pretty solid here. You get some pretty good moments between all the characters, and you kind of need these moments here because you have a falling out with Foggy, and then Karen. Karen walks in at the wrong moment, of course, today in this episode. So she walks in on Stick, hanging out, and Elektra, sweaty and half laid out in Matt's bed. It's pretty rough. And of course, for her, it's like the last straw. She's like, you've been hiding shit from me this whole time. There's another woman in your bed right now. What is going on? And not to say that Karen is like just some kind of typical shallow-minded girl or something like that, but she's not. But it's probably just like it's the last straw now. Like I don't even know. Like imagine like if you've been getting lied to for so long, and you come into like your potential boyfriend's house, and there's some like hot chick in his bed right here, and there's some old guy. Of course, it could just been fight. It just could have just been family, but it's just what is going on here? So Karen was like, "Fucking, I'm out of here." Like Karen was like, "I'm out. I'm so done." And that's like, "Hold on," So there goes that romance. That's pretty much over. And then you've got Elektra, who's almost half dead in the bed there, and then you got Stick explaining this whole war about ninjas. Matt's whole life is going to shit, and you know what? I can't get enough of it. I can't get enough of it, guys, because you know why? It's Daredevil. You know what? Daredevil is a character where Matt Murdock gets shit on so much, and he keeps on kicking. All right, so it can't get much worse than this right now. Okay, he's got things coming from all angles. We got Reyes, we've got the Punisher, we've got he's losing his friends. Karen's not talking to him. Foggy's pissed off. He's like, I'm done with this shit. Stick has come back into his life, and he wants them to fight some war against the ninjas who are bent on destroying the world. It seems the Yakuza are back in town. We found Wilson Fisk is back here. Elektra's on her deathbed. So much going on, guys. Matt Murdock, the man who's trying to pull it all together and keep things from exploding. Reminds me a lot of Doctor Who. But yeah. Hey Bones, I'm not passing out in the middle of the day today. Nice, John. Congrats. I'm glad you're still up. But even me just talking about it just shows you like how much weight is on Matt's shoulders at this point in the show. He's just trying to do it all. He's trying to carry on both sides. Before it was hard enough because Matt was, he was being Daredevil. But now you add Elektra in there, and then you've got this whole kind of backstory going on there, and you've got this this case being covered up by Reyes, and then you've got the Punisher in jail right now. What's going on with that? There's gonna be some tampering with that too. Matt's head's constantly flowing, but he's not focused. He's not focused enough on one thing right now, and that's kind of what makes it dangerous. We also get some pretty cool upgrades to Matt's suit too. We get some pretty cool stuff coming up pretty soon, and the mask and the red eyes and all that stuff is pretty clean. After the Punisher takes out, shoots him in the face with that bullet, he gets a new mask from Gladiator, or you want to call him. And he gets some pretty cool stuff. So we start seeing some more stuff at the Billy Clubs, some cool fight scenes. Just overall, I'd say it was some really good stuff. It was a pretty good episode because we got Elektra redemption story. She's starting to ask for forgiveness from Matt, and just in general, and you get to see a little bit more of that side of her character, and it definitely does help her character out in this episode. Because before, you kind of just felt like she was just playing with Matt. She has some feelings for him, it seems, but how much is she really invested in Matt Murdock besides, just using him for her own means? We get a little bit more balance here about, how she actually feels about him. So, you get plenty of stuff in this episode, guys. You get action, you get romance, you get them fighting fucking ninjas. Good stuff. So we move on, I guess, to the last episode I'm going to cover here. And I think that like this one's a doozy for sure. This one, it's kind of like I was kind of tempted to just like leave it for the next episode of the show, but we'll see. Like this episode here, like I feel like it pretty much it pretty much makes the idea of Punisher having his own show way more likely. It's a pretty huge episode for the character, and just in general, just in this world of New York they've created in Marvel. It's a pretty hefty one. Not today. It's the start of the weekend, really. You're right. It is pretty much the start of the weekend for you guys. My weekend's ending today. Go back to work tomorrow. But the struggle. But yeah, I'd say that there's definitely some pretty solid stuff in there. But this episode, guys, this is the one that is a real doozy. So this episode 9, is called 7 Minutes in Heaven. If you guys watch the episode, you understand a little bit more about why it's called that. But basically, we found out a bit more about what happened with. We found a little bit more about what happens with Wilson Fisk's character. I feel like I'm gonna kind of lead this one on kind of like a cliffhanger. We'll talk a little bit more about this episode. I think in the next podcast, it's a pretty good episode to start off with. I think in the next episode, which I think will be our final episode of Daredevil. We'll do pretty much all those episodes probably all in one bunch. But I will lead into it a little bit with this, just explaining a little bit more about what was going on in this episode. Wilson Fisk. He's shown here being a big badass. There's some pretty good moments here. I want to say that with the dynamic of the show, bringing him back from season 1, which I was hoping was going to happen anyway, but I'm glad it did. Just bringing him back into the fold here, it definitely opens up the world even more a bit, because you start realizing that it never ends. Even with things going on here with Punisher, you find out what Fisk has been up to since the season ended, and I'm gonna probably save most of this, I think, for the next episode of the podcast. I'm gonna give you guys even more time, okay? I'm gonna give you guys some more time to catch up on the show. That means you guys have at least 2 weeks here, because I have to do a podcast about Game of Thrones and one about Captain America: Civil War. They give you guys at least another 2 weeks to catch up on the show, watch season 2, all right, before we get into the meaty last arc of the show, pretty much the last 5 episodes of the show. We'll be talking about pretty soon here. So I don't want any excuses, guys. All right, you guys get your shit together over there. You guys pull it up. Watch the show. The show is amazing. Okay, we got some great actors. You know, some great moments between all of the characters as well. If you're really into you know, the action, if you like the idea of Marvel and the way their shows work, I think that you'll really enjoy just kind of, you know, the overall theme of the show. I mean, you get some pretty cool moments just beyond all of these, and so I think that you'll really enjoy it. There's brutal violence. There's awesome action scenes. Some pretty good drama. Some solid romance. Great introductory characters. Thank you for the host, man. Towards the end of the show now, so thank you. Alright, guys. We're gonna go into more in depth with that episode. I feel like to start the next podcast when we do the next Daredevil one. But there's a lot of stuff going on. I think we'll feed off of that episode, and it's a pretty spoiler heavy episode. There's some pretty awesome fight scenes in there too, and so I'm gonna most likely end up saving that one for the last one. But I'll find another clip to show you guys just to get a little bit of a taste of Daredevil in case you haven't seen it yet, or just in general, just kind of a little bit more about what's going on with the season. Let's find something good. Let's find a good one. I'll show it on stream for you guys to kind of give you an idea of what's happening in season 2. I cannot show the fight scene in this episode though because it's too violent. But when I do come back with the next episode, we'll definitely go over Fisk and Murdoch and their like whole conversation. It's just so good. It's just a good moment. Like Kingpin, he started showing himself a lot in this one. His conversations with the Punisher and with Matt. It's a really strong episode. So we're going to that one. I'm gonna leave it a little bit of a cliffhanger. Give you guys a little bit of time to catch up a bit, and we'll make it happen. Let me show you guys. Let's just pick a nice moment here between these gentlemen. I think that this one might work. Let's go with that one.
Yeah.
Just so you guys have a bit of an idea of who these people are. I think this one will work. We'll go with the scene here between the two characters, or at least just explaining Punisher a bit more. They're all pretty interesting, but I think Punisher is gonna he might end up getting his own show just based off this show. To be honest. Do this here. This should be a bit better.
Let's catch Fisk. Now people all over the kitchen are getting hurt. Call it massive gang-on-gang overkill.
There's talk about an army in town. Military-grade firepower. Tell me who they are.
It's one man. Hell's Kitchen is about to explode.
This season, Matt Murdock's met his match.
His targets aren't random. He knows exactly who he wants to hit.
10, 20 guys getting moved down at a time. The guy was a Grim Reaper.
They're calling this one the Punisher.
This is the evolution of the Punisher. I dove into the show and I fell in love with this world, how dangerous it was. It was a world I desperately wanted to play in.
Maybe we created him. Daredevil practiced vigilante justice. Maybe his actions open the door for men like this.
Morning, sunshine.
He's not a villain, he's not a superhero. He's trying to make people pay for what they've done.
People don't have to die.
I think that the people I kill need killing.
Daredevil's brand of justice is ridiculous to Frank, yet he's such a worthy adversary.
It's really this very confronting relationship.
You run around this city like it's your damn shooting gallery. I do the one thing that you can't. You hit them and they get back up. I hit them and they stay down.
As dark as he is, inside there's a man who suffered real loss.
You think this Punisher could be a good person?
He could be any one of us.
Yeah.
Daredevil up against Frank Castle is the ultimate battle.
You know what I think, you hero? I think you're a coward.
I want people to believe in the man who's behind the Punisher.
You're gonna have to kill me because I'm never gonna stop coming for you.
You're one bad day away from being me. Let's kick ass, man.
Bang.
It's so good, guys. Just go watch Daredevil. Okay, you're not gonna regret it. There's some great moments. We'll be catching up on the last arc of the show, the last 5 episodes. I'll be doing a marathon on all those bad boys. We'll talk about all of it on probably, I want to say episode 8 or 9 of the DOOMCAST. We have a couple of episodes of other shows coming up first. And then by the time we finish up Daredevil, I think that we get around to finishing up the Daredevil season 2. We'll be probably wrapping up with the other shows too, because I think that Arrow's wrapping up, which I was kind of about this year. But The Flash, Agents of Shield, Gotham, So we'll probably do like a little bit of wrap up of some of the other shows coming up that are kind of ending, that I've been watching or trying to catch up on. I want to do one about The Walking Dead, but it's kind of in a bad spot right now. So I might do one of those episodes too, but we'll see. It's always kind of up and down right now with the show. I'm getting kind of more of a schedule down, but it just takes some time. So basically, guys, thank you guys for all hanging out tonight. Do appreciate it. We had a fun time, I think. Also, we got some news coming up with. I'm thinking about actually doing a few things with the show. So I figured out somewhere at the end of the show now, I'll tell you guys a little bit more about what I have planned. I'm considering doing like a 2-minute review of things in my full Doctor Doom outfit. I'm gonna call it like the Doom reviews or something like that. If I ever get enough stuff together for it, like an actual camera setup and the background and all that stuff. And then I'm doing like 2-3 minute reviews of just like either video games, comics, that kind of stuff, and then showing them on the podcast and then putting them up on YouTube. Also have an idea of just what else my friend thought just now. Just doing a few other things for the show, before and after, for you guys can interact and ask questions, that kind of stuff. So I think we're gonna start doing like more of a Q&A or something like that sometimes on certain episodes of the show. So I think that'd be a pretty cool idea. I'll keep you guys posted on what we have planned, and I might have a vote poll open for some of the details on what we're actually going to do with the show as far as like episodes or episode ideas. So you guys ever have an idea for the show, feel free to hit me up or tweet me, twitch.tv / DennyVonDoom, or just Twitch or Twitter. Twitter is DennyVonDoom. You can find me on Twitter right there, DennyVonDoom. Follow me there. Hit me up on Twitter, or hit me up on Discord if you guys have my Discord. If you guys ever have any ideas, you can let me know. But I'm thinking about actually pulling out the Doom costume at some point, and doing a couple of reviews, just 2 or 3 quick minute, reviews, and putting them up on YouTube, and then having them air before the actual podcast starts live. Just a couple of fun things. And keep the green screen effect on as you cosplay. Yeah, okay. Alright. That's not gonna fucking happen. But, so yeah, that's kind of my ideas for now. So what's gonna happen now, guys, is I'm going to actually end the stream for like a couple minutes. It's, what time is it now? We got it's almost 6 o'clock, so I'm gonna end the stream. I'm gonna probably end up playing either some Dark Souls or some Street Fighter, depending on what I feel like playing. We're gonna play a game or two now that the stream is finished. But I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. I enjoy talking to you guys about it. Always a good time. So yeah, think that's about it. Okay, guys. So hope I'll catch you guys again next time. Next week we should be doing a full review of the first episode of Game of Thrones. Should be pretty nice. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna start putting together some things on YouTube for all this stuff too. Which reminds me, guys, feel free to follow me on all the social media stuff. Right, Facebook, even YouTube. I put up my episodes of the Doomcast on YouTube as well. I have a whole playlist for those episodes too, and I have a YouTube channel coming soon for Doomcast. Eventually, I'm gonna maybe branch out and have something else together for everyone to kind of communicate about the podcast as well, and maybe even its own Twitter page, depending on But for now, we'll just go with DennyVonDoom. You guys can follow me there. Show some love, and that's it for now. All right, guys. So I'll be back in a little bit. I'm going to actually end the stream for like about 5 minutes. We're gonna start up again with another game. I'm not sure which one yet. Dark Souls maybe, or Street Fighter. I'm not sure which one I want to go with. I'm in a pretty game heavy mood, so we'll be going pretty hard tonight. All right. Well, until next time, guys. Remember, stay villainous, and thank you guys for hanging out. This is the Doomcast. It's been another great episode. I really enjoyed it. See you guys in a little bit.